Can you buy a note as easily as you can buy a case for your new iPhone 12 from Amazon? Stay tuned. Hello, everyone. Joe Varnador here from Note School, and I want to welcome you to this week's episode of Note School TV. We have a special guest today, and we'll bring him on in just a minute. But we go live every Wednesday at 11:05 Central Time. And make sure that if you love the show, right, that you like, share, and subscribe, and make sure you hit that bell notification so that you will have a reminder as to when we are going live. Make sure also, and send any, share your questions and comments as we're going through this also. And you can always contact us at noteschool.com/TV. So, as I said, there is a lot of things happening in the world today. We all know that. The old Chinese philosopher said, may you live in interesting times. Well, it is certainly interesting times, right? So, big news story for this week. So, the big news story for this week, the government-sponsored entities, which are GSEs, we call them, which is Fannie, Freddie, Fannie Mae, Freddie Mac, and Ginnie Mae, have decided to extend the foreclosure moratorium from December 31st of 2020. They've extended it out to January 31st of 2020. And the story goes on to say that will affect about 28 million homeowners in the United States. Not that there's 28 million people in a forbearance situation, but there are that many Fannie Mae, Freddie Mac, and Ginnie Mae government insured or guaranteed loans. So Ginnie Mae includes VA and FHA. So that is a breath of fresh air for some of those guys as well. We know there's a lot of things going on, right? So with that, now understand that only applies to the Fannie, Freddie, and Ginnie loans. It does not apply to the other loans that are through regular conventional lenders and so on. So just a big piece of news there. And again, that is good news for a lot of folks there. All right. And stay tuned for more of that. We'll have our news flash every week as we go through this. So as I said, we do have a special guest today. And this gentleman, his name is Mr. Dave Staunton. And Dave comes to us. He is from the San Francisco Bay Area. Why don't you bring on Dave and let's talk just a few minutes.
Hey, Joe, how you doing?
Sir. So Dave is a retired police detective from the Bay Area, right?
Correct. Yep.
And if my memory serves me correct, you were when you retired, you were doing financial fraud and things like that, right?
Yeah, that was in a financial crimes unit. I was actually the commander of financial crimes unit.
Wow, that's a big job, dude. I didn't know you were the big wheel.
It was a handful. Yeah, it was a handful.
Yeah, I'm sure a lot of things. I'm sure you've got a lot of great stories to tell, right?
Oh, yeah.
One of these days we'll get to sit back down live in person again and share more of those stories, right? Dave?
That would be nice. I'm looking forward to next year and looking forward to next year in Dallas to sit down and have breakfast with you or something.
Absolutely. So, Dave, you when you came into Note School, you do a lot of other things, right? You have, I think you and I have talked about this, and you do defensive driving courses all over the United States, right?
Yeah, I do specialized driving courses, actually. I teach off-road driving to search and rescue personnel, fire departments, and some civilian classes as well. That's my fun business.
That's your fun. So you
not that notes aren't fun, but that's my fun business.
Well, so one of these days, I live in a little town in South Florida, as some of you guys have heard me say, a little town called Okeechobee, and the Sebring Raceway is about 45 minutes from where I live. So one day Dave's going to do something over there, and I'm going to go over and help him out.
Yeah, we'll have to do some video of that, because there I teach protection driving, so how to protect dignitaries, and also some motion picture stunt driving school there as well.
Well, even after being married 28 years and my wife riding around with me for a long time, she says I can use all the help I can get. So, but you were looking for something that was going to be passive for you, a little bit active, but you really liked it. This was kind of a means to an end, right? You wanted to continue to build wealth. You live in an area that has a lot of great investors out there that want, private investors, I should say, right? That want to invest, and they totally want to do nothing, right? They totally want to be passive.
Yeah, it's really interesting in that, because my peer group is now retiring from law enforcement, and they are bailing out of California for reasons we won't get into here. But because they're selling real estate, they're buying in other places out of state, and they have cash on hand that they want to invest, but they don't like the roller coaster of the stock market. And because of just this time in their life, they want cash flow. They're not trying to grow an IRA to retire later. They're retired now. They want cash flow now. And so I'm able to offer that to them.
Well, and we were looking at some stats the other day, Dave, and the last time, back during the Great Recession, which sounds like, it was 100 years ago, but it was 10 years ago, right? Or 12 years ago, that there was a record set back then of about $3.8 trillion that at one time was sitting just in money market accounts, right? Which means it was doing nothing, what I mean, about less than 1%, in return. And so that was like at 3.8 trillion. Today, there is almost 5 trillion, like at 4.8 or 9 trillion dollars sitting dry inside of money market accounts. And then all of the pile of cash that is sitting over in self-directed IRAs that is sitting in dry cash, right? They say that number is somewhere between 55 and 75 billion dollars sitting in dry cash in IRAs. So we talk about, working with burnout landlords. We call them bulls, right?
Yeah.
And so on. And that private capital that's out there, it's a thing, right? We had you had a deal last year with your first deal, right? That I think you used 100% private investment money, didn't you? The non-performing note you did in New Jersey.
Yeah, my first note, I kind of challenged myself on it, Joe, in that, you keep hearing people say, well, you can use other people's money. You don't need to use any of your own. So I had some of my own to invest, but I thought, okay, let's see if I can actually do that. So I jumped into the deep end with a non-performing note with not a dime of my own money in it. Yeah. And I had set a goal for myself after going to Note Expo to get into the deal contest and at least be a finalist. And I was a finalist that year. I didn't win the whole thing, but just to be a finalist was pretty cool.
Yeah, 3 out of many is pretty darn impressive. So, yeah, so Dave, his story goes that he attended. He became a Note School student late in the summer of 2018.
Right.
He was getting his feet wet with the business and doing, kind of studying up, and then he jumps in and goes to Note Expo in the in November of 2018. And he saw all these folks getting up on stage, getting their awards and so on. And Dave, what did you decide you were going to do at that point?
Well, I set that as a goal for myself. So what I tell my kids who are now in college or graduated college now is if you do not write down your goals, it's a wish. Yeah. So I created a mouse pad, and on the mouse pad, in fact, I have my mouse pad right here. So on my mouse pad, I wrote on the top of it, Note Expo, and I put on deal finalist. And I remember I showed that to you that day.
You did. You absolutely did.
It gave you goosebumps, I think. But that, it's, I didn't know I'd make it, but I was going to give it my best shot. And so
that was in what, 2018, November 2018, Dave
Right.
says, I'm going to be up on stage with a deal. He'd not done his first deal at that point.
Right.
November 2019, boom, you were there. And we had to go virtual with Note Expo this year, the appreciation event in Note Expo. But
I still enjoyed it. It was good. I like in person better, but
darn good, yeah.
I was
and you were a
to
finalist
be
again, right?
I was, to be honest, my expectations were low for the virtual event, but man, I really had a good time and enjoyed it.
Yeah. Well, you know what? It's what is the old saying? Always a bridesmaid, never a bride, right? So anyway, so let's talk a little bit, and we go back to the teaser that I gave at the beginning of this. So, can you really buy a great performing note from Notes Direct, which is our note platform, right?
Right.
As easily as you can buy a case for your cell phone from Amazon? And really, the answer to that, Dave, is, yes, right?
Correct. Yeah. It's just like if you're going to buy a product on Amazon, you go look at all the reviews and then you talk to your friends and you Google it. It's kind of the same thing with a note. You're just doing underwriting,
Right.
and you're doing all the background work for it. And you actually, even this year, I learned, and I don't have his name in front of me, but there are people out there that'll help you with the underwriting if you need that.
Right.
And you just do your research on it. And I guess it's a little different, especially on my first one, because I'm hovering over a button that is $40-some thousand, with sweaty fingers. Do I click it? But that's kind of what I like about Notes Direct is, okay, I click it. If there's something just egregiously wrong in the underwriting, well, the Notes Direct people are there, and they'll help you work through it.
That's right. Well, and we'll talk a little bit more at the end of this about how to get to Notes Direct and so on. So let's we've got a picture of the house here and some details. So let's just talk about what that looks like, right? So here's the house. Now, by the way, folks, we said Dave lives in the San Francisco Bay Area, right? Right. Is that anywhere close to Ridgely, Tennessee?
It is not. If anyone's geographically challenged, it is not close. And just to be clear, this is not the non-performer.
And look at this house, Dave.
Yeah, this is not the non-performer I bought the first one. This was actually a performing note that I bought.
Right.
That had started having issues. So
right.
Yeah.
Well, the great thing about the note space is that you're the bank, right? So you bought a note that on a house in Ridgely, Tennessee. It's a 3-bedroom, 1-bath house. It's got a current value of $55,000. Now, it's a nice looking little house, guys. And I know, if for those of you that live in California or live in some of those higher priced areas, you go, oh my God, I can't get a parking space for that much, right? But that's just kind of the way it is.
That's true.
So let's talk a little bit about, Dave, the details of this note, right? What did it look like then when you bought this? Okay, so the note, the house is worth $55,000, right?
Right.
And the balance on the loan was $43,250. The interest rate on this is 10%. Now, some folks are going, oh, 10%, that's a little bit high, guys. This is a lower price band asset, and that is appropriate for a note of this size, right? And so it says the term is 250 months. So, Dave, what was the original term on this loan?
This actually was the original term before I modified it.
Right. But what I'm saying is this lady had owned this house a long time, right? This was a 360-month loan.
Right. And there's 250 months left on it when I bought it.
So let me make sure everybody gets that. So guys, this loan, the borrower owes 250 payments after having made 110 payments. So she's owned this house for what, 9 years?
Right.
So 9 years. So, and she's got a bit of equity in it. She's got about a little over $10,000 in equity, in cash equity. But here's the thing. She's got 9 years of emotional equity in this house, right?
Yeah, and if you look
So,
at the picture, Joe, the picture on the first slide that you brought up,
yep.
that's one of the things that told me she's got emotional equity in it. Because if you look at that yard, it's nice. There's flowers on the mailbox. That's somebody that cares about their house.
Isn't that something? I bought a note once in Memphis, and I didn't even go in. It was a performing note, and Dave, the yard was, and it was an older house, right? But the yard was immaculate. The hedge was totally trimmed. The sidewalks were totally edged, man. And I'm a little anal about my yard and stuff like that. And I go, look at that. I don't need to see anything else, right?
Yeah.
That's the emotional equity there. So you go through this, and we'll go back to the next screen there. And so the monthly payment is $412. So basically, Dave, what you're buying is you were buying the rights to receive the note, right? You're buying the rights to receive 250 payments at $412, right? And so and you bought this note, right, from Notes Direct. Notes was traded at a discount, folks. So Dave buys this note for $34,250, right? So he buys it at an $8,000 discount. So that makes I didn't figure what your yield on that is, but it's somewhere in the 12, 13% range, I would assume.
Yeah, I don't have that in front of me, but
I don't have it in front of me, but yeah. So it's up there. So then let's kind of look at some redeeming factors on this. So you buy this for $34,000. The balance is $43,250. So again, the borrower had paid 110 payments of $412, right? So there's 250 payments remaining. So you buy this, and did you buy this in your IRA, or did you just buy it outside of your IRA?
Bought it outside of my IRA with none of my own money.
Oh, that was my next question. So you actually used all investor money on this. So you borrowed some inexpensive, and I'm going to guess that you paid somewhere. Your private lender was paying you some. You were paying somewhere between 6 and 7%.
Yeah, around a little over 7 actually, because these are the guys I use are friends of mine. I've known them for a long time, so I was a little bit generous with them.
So you're giving them a little extra juice out of the lemon, right?
Right.
Okay, so you're buying this cash flow, right? And so you buy it, and let's look at the deal points on this. So you buy it back in December of 2019, and everything is all good, right?
Yeah, had a good payment history, and so everything was fine for 3 months.
And so then we had a challenge, didn't we? Some of you have heard of it. It was a pandemic. I think it's called COVID. And this lady's life, kind of, after living in that house and owning that house for 9 years, she had a lot of things happen to her, right? I think so. We had the COVID thing. There was a divorce. There was a challenge with her daughter. So there was some it was kind of just dumped on her all at once, right, Dave?
Right. Yeah, I actually spoke to her directly and heard her story, and she just had some horrific stuff going on in her life.
Right. And guys, here's the thing. And Dave, you chose to speak to her, which is a good thing because you wanted to find out what was going on. But just understand that guys, you don't have to do that. There are default servicers out there that can work with you, or that can work with your client, your borrower for you. And I'm sure you went through the process with that as well.
Yeah, I had a servicing company, and they said they could work through it, but without giving too much information on my borrower, we had something in common in our backgrounds.
Right.
So I told the servicer, look, I'd like to talk to this lady directly because we have something in common. So I spoke to her directly, and that actually worked out very well. So
she missed the repayments, and one of the things I love about this business is that folks like, you, myself, and all these other pile of Note School students that are out there, we can affect people's lives in a positive way, in that you were able to not have to go through a bunch of red tape, right? Because you're the bank, right? You're the DS National Bank, the Dave Storton National Bank. So you were able to make a decision and very quickly decide that I really want to help this lady. And that's what it's all about. You didn't want this lady's house. You wanted to help her, and she was willing to go along with that as well.
Yeah, she developed some trust with me, just because we spoke, and I told her a little bit about me, and what our commonality was, and why I wanted to talk to her directly. Yeah. And so she trusted me, and we actually went over in detail her budget and what she could afford, and that was my starting point on how I could modify this thing.
Right. So here's what the modification looked like. Right. Her balance before was, I'm looking at my notes here, $43,250. Right. So you drop the balance down to $40,000.
Right.
You drop the interest rate from 10% down to 9%. You extended the term a little bit, right? She had 250 payments remaining, so you just extended the term by 50 months. So it's $300 or 300 months. And then that dropped the payment, the monthly payment, about about $68 a month, which may not sound like a lot to a lot of folks, but it is, right?
Yeah, it was significant to her. And the way I came up with those numbers is we backed into it, as Eddie says. Right. Is I went from, okay, what's your budget? She needed something under 350 for sure.
Right.
And so I just backed into those numbers, trying to get it under 350, and it worked out.
And again, it just, that's the thing I love about this. So Dave, once you did that, right, you use some of that note school magic that you learned, right? And so let's look at what you decided to do after you modified this loan. So you went in and you decided that, and there's something, so you can buy a loan, guys, and in this case, there's 300 payments left. So Dave decided that he was going to sell the front end piece of those payments. And you decided to sell 180 of that 300 payment stream, right?
Right. So, I already had a partial buyer that he was already looking to buy a partial from me. So I was already on the hunt for a note I could partial when this occurred. And I thought, hey, I could partial this one.
Right. So it's perfect, right? So you present this to your partial buyer. Your partial buyer, you said, look, you invest $39,000. You get 180 payments of $344 a month. Your investor's rate of return is 6.7%, which I'm sure that he or she was just totally ecstatic with, right?
Yeah, he was completely happy with that, because he even said, I'm getting 2%. The money's getting there 2%, if that, sitting in a bank account.
Exactly. So, and he's, the house is worth 55. So there's plenty of equity in the thing, between what it is. So Dave, you sell a partial, right? Those 180 payments. And guys, we say at Note School all the time, it's your chalk and your chalkboard, right? And so Dave just decided how much he wanted to sell. Right. So he figured up a rate of return for his investor, and then he just carved off a piece of those payments to sell. And so what that did is that allowed you to bring $39,000 back into your business.
Right.
Excuse me, guys. Sorry, allergies this morning. So we call that also the capital recoupment plan, right? So all you're doing is recouping some investment back into your bank. And then you own 120 payments on the back end of that, of $344 a month. So we always joke around, right? So what's his rate of return? Guys, it's very high, right? So let's look at the numbers here, Dave, as we wrap this up. So you had all in, right? You had the note cost of $34,230, I believe is what it was, $34,250, right? And then when you modified it, you had some cost in that. So your all-in cost on this was $34,895.
Right.
So you received 3 payments from your borrower, December, January, February, and those payments totaled $1,236. And then it must have been about April or May that you modified this.
Right.
And you sold 180 payments for $39,000. And when you sold those payments for $39,000, Now, if we go back and look at those numbers, you've gotten every dime of your money back, right? You've gotten $39,000 plus the $1,200. So you've gotten back a little over $40,000 in monthly payments, or in cash.
In cash, right?
But Dave, you still own what?
I still own the back end of the note with zero money in it. And you know what's funny, Joe, is I just hired a new bookkeeper because my last bookkeeper couldn't figure out what the heck I was doing. And I just talked to the new bookkeeper yesterday, and she said, "I've never seen anything like this. You're going to have to teach me how to do it."
Well, guess what? You've got another passive investor, right, Dave?
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh my gosh. So that's just so that everybody gets that, right? So Dave has his original purchase, then he has to modify it. So he receives those 3 payments. He modifies the loan. He sells a partial. So Dave, you've collected about a little over $40,000. So you've made $5,000 in today money, kind of over a few months, right?
Correct. Yeah.
And then you have the back end. You've sold 15 years of payments. So once your partial investor has received their 180 payments, it automatically reverts back to you, and you're going to receive the remaining 120 payments. Now, it could pay off early, right? And that's okay. Right. It could, or they could continue to pay it. She could continue, to be in it 300 more months. So anyway, so your total profit is $46,000 on a $35,000 investment, right?
Yeah, that's not bad.
But you have nothing invested in those 120 payments.
Yeah, that's what got the bookkeeper's attention. She said, "I'm trying to do the numbers on this. You don't have any money in this, and you're going to start collecting payments?" I said, "Yeah." She said, "Well, I want to do that."
Mr. Short, you're actually $5,000 ahead of the game. And then anyway, hey guys, that's the note space, and that's why we absolutely love this business. It's just an amazing thing to go in and do that. So you not only, it's something where you can profit and prosper, and you can help folks. And I love to say we can help people one house at a time in the U.S. We can go out and do that without getting all corny and all that on that, right? I have a real strong opinion about us being able to do that. So Dave, I appreciate who you are. I appreciate, your integrity in the business and helping folks in the business. And just, a lot of folks go say, well, let me just foreclose on this thing, right? But that wasn't the game on this, right? The game on this was the long play, right? So right. Money today and money tomorrow. And we teach that over and over and over.
Yeah. And I told you about this one just in passing when you said,
you did.
"Hey, you got to put this in the contest." And I hadn't considered that because I hadn't really thought about the contest for this year.
Right.
So, well, sure. Okay. So, and
all right. So Dave, I appreciate you being on. And again, thanks so much. Happy holidays. And
you too, Joe.
Stick around. We'll talk after the show. So guys, if you want to learn more about buying a note, you can certainly go to notesdirect.com, or you can check us out. Check out Feeding Frenzy Friday. Every week, Brian Lochner and Scott Tyler have a 5-minute quick show. Go to the Note School TV channel at YouTube and check out Note School TV on the Feeding Frenzy Friday. Great notes just like this that you can find on there, and you can make those your own. So guys, again, thanks so much. Do check out Feeding Frenzy Friday. Remember to subscribe to our YouTube channel. We go live every Wednesday at 11 a.m. Central Time. Remember to learn more about Note School and the Note Space. Go to noteschool.com/TV. And guys, have a great afternoon, and we will see you next week live at 11 a.m. on Note School TV. Have a great week.